All right, that brings me to our next slide. In the final part, my colleague Michelle will give a demo on the solution. It's called Exceed. Exceed, what we discussed today. Culture is really important, but it's also important to really understand, okay, what are the reasons why people are actually leaving, and what's the turnover rate, and do we need to steer on it, or is that an average regular rate that people leave and people come and that's it, so we don't have to worry. But if it really increases quite a lot, you really need to take active measurements, and then you can determine, okay, what would be for us as a company that actually also fits our culture. What kind of solutions can we implement that will help us to combat the great resignation? And I don't say that everyone should do the same thing. It really depends on your company, your culture, and how you interpret the figures that you have, the metrics that you have, and then you can see, then you can determine, okay, which strategy works really well for me, and what should I do first, and maybe second and third. All right, Michelle, are you ready?
I'm ready up. Thank you for the introduction. I will gonna share my screen from my side. Let me see. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, all right. I will start with the last part of the event. And we're going to look into the data-driven steps to improve employee retention. And we suggest we do that in a three-step way. The first step would be understanding the problem. And once we understand the problem, we then go identify the reasons for resignations, all with help from the data in the system. And when we've done that, then it's time to start creating retention strategies. So that would be our approach. If we go to the first step, understanding the problem, I would underline it with some charts from the McKinsey & Company research. They say executives who think that employee attrition is easing or is limited to a particular industry are misguided. If you look at the first chart on the left, there you can see that the data from the research tells that 40% of the employees are thinking about quitting their current jobs in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's a very high percentage. And the charts next to it, also from the same research, is telling that the most employers, more than 50%, are experiencing a higher turnover in the last year, and more than 60% thinks it will stay the same or maybe increase in the upcoming 6 months. And when you break it down to some industries, you can see the chart on the bottom. You can see that the percentages vary per industry. Just to point out that those percentages of employees thinking about leaving are very high. We have seen some information McKinsey also said, to stem the tide of the Great Resignation, senior executives must understand why employees are leaving. So we now want to take a closer look at the specific company and look at what is the employee turnover rate. After that, we will look at the main reasons for departures from the leavers. And we're going to turn over to the XC solution, the HR application, to see how the data can support this information. As you can see, I entered the Exceed solution, and I got here a leavers dashboard with all kind of information, which I will walk through with you. And I got also a dashboard with the current employees, so we can compare and see what the data has given us. So all from the data from the system, you can see in right away what is our yearly employee turnover rate. This is for 2021. It's 31% for this company, so it's very high turnover rate. And if we go to the next report and the charts related to it, you can see the monthly turnover rates. And well, this could be an indication like, can we spot something in here? Could be a reason for investigation, like we can see a higher turnover rate in February. Could this be interesting for us to get searched for some data? But this comes also from the system. So we get this data who's giving us all these figures. If we go to the next slide or the next report, and this graph is showing the reasons for leaving. This company is working with exit interviews for a long time. So they kept this data up to date and clean in the system when they administer leavers. So what can we see here? You can see there are all kinds of reasons given by the leavers. Can be voluntary, can be involuntary, for example, related to performance or to the contract endings. But it clearly points out that for this company, the main reasons for the leavers who are giving the main reasons for leaving are a lack of career opportunity and a higher compensation. Also a better work balance. You can see all the reasons: leaving the tech industry, retention of retirement. But for now, we will focus on those two main reasons that were given by the leavers to see if we can find some data that supports it, or we can see underlying reasons which can help us to get some retention strategies. So if you focus on the lack of career opportunities, what can we see in the data? If we breaking it down for this subset of employees who are given this same reason, then you can see that the vast majority of the population of the leavers who pointed out, they were already in the same job role for at least 3 years. So you can say, okay, that's a clear indication that they were looking for other career opportunities. And if we then go to the current population, then we can see actually the same. So for this company, the onboarding or the company culture doesn't seem to be really a problem. But when you look at the population who are in their current position, the longest time, there's also a hotspot in the current position for 3 to 5 years. So that could be something we have to deal with. If you look at this data, then you can say, okay, what are the leavers telling us? What is the data telling us? Yeah, there are a lot of people in that red zone. We don't know why they're in that, what the reason is for this. Could be that there's maybe a freeze on promotions for this company. We don't know that. But it seems to be that if we don't act, we are at quite a high risk of employees walking out because of the same reason. So this becomes some business decision we need to explore. If we're looking at the second reason, people were mentioning that they were leaving for a higher compensation. Well, we know that it's more of a kind of a personal thing, rather than from a business or organizational perspective. But we might want to make a few things, to be sure of a few things, like is there a gender pay gap? Excuse me, I need to go back to the leavers dashboard. We've breaking down again the population that was telling us they were leaving for higher compensation. And we're breaking it down by gender, so you can see, okay, it's 50-50. So that doesn't really seem to be a gender bias. It would, of course, would be possible to have a closer look at average compensation between male and female, but the data is there. You can do that, but first and foremost, this data is telling us there's not a sudden issue to be addressed between the gender bias. Then we also have breaking it down for the same population of the leavers by grades. And what we see here is that the vast majority, the high majority, 55% of the leavers who told us they were looking for higher compensation, they're in the level 5 grade zone. So that's interesting. I mean, is there a theme? Is it a trend? What does it tell us? So let's look at our current employees. And in this chart, we see we also have broken it down by grades. And what we see here now is that here are all my grades and levels across the organization. And based on benchmark exercise we've been doing, we plug that against the grades. So what we can see and what we can expect is that those high earners are slightly above the pay scales. But what is notable, maybe these organizations, they want the employees roughly between 90 to 95% of their pay scale. And yeah, if we look at the data and look at level 5, we can see, okay, they are much lower than the average pay scale, than 90%. So this tells us that there's something maybe has gone wrong with that level 5 population. So we clearly see that the leavers are giving us, yeah, like a scenario or a story, telling us they looking for higher compensation. And we can see that hotspot. We can see that population is at risk. So what can you do about it? You can maybe say, okay, we either do an immediate uplift, give those people a spot pay raise, so they come in line with the benchmark data. You can say, okay, this people, we communicate to those employees and tell them that as part of the next review, next to the additional yearly pay raise, we give you maybe a spot move from XYZ to bring you in line with the market research. So this data is giving us all kind of information based on the reasons for leaving that were given by the leavers. So now jump back to the slides. We now discuss step 1 and step 2. First of all, understanding the problem. What is the employee turnover rate for this company in this example? Very high, 31%. What are the main types of departure? Lack of career opportunities and high compensation. That's what we've been focusing on. Of course, it always depends on the company and the circumstances. What are the main areas to focus on? And then if we go to step 2, we have identified the reasons for resignations. We looked at career opportunities, and it was clearly that there seems to be no career progression. People were too long in the current job roles, and it relates to the leavers, but also to the current population. If we looked at compensation, we can see in this example, we saw that the employees in level 5 pay scale, they needed attention. and it's also related to the leavers and the current employees. So now we can go to step 3, creating retention strategies. And I just give a few examples here related to the career path and development opportunities. You can see that employees are looking for jobs with better and stronger career trajectories. So this company needs to find ways to reward people by promoting them into perhaps new roles or additional levels within the existing ones. What also is a possibility that they can perform employee check-ins. Besides, for example, the annual reviews, if they perform monthly check-ins, meet up with their manager, so they can tell how they are, how they feel. Pain points can be addressed in an early stage, and the employer can act before it's too late. But again, those are just a few examples. The retention strategies are not limited, of course. And some data suggests that those employee check-ins are very important for employees too. 84% say they are important, and 30% even tell they are very important. And if we are looking to retention strategies related to compensation, a few examples, of course, in the example I just shown, this company should act proactively on employees in level 5. In general, you could say, okay, we want to relate the salary increase to increased contribution. And for example, you can implement a competence system. And you can start increasing use of performance-based incentives that can become in many forms. For example, maybe project incentives or team incentives or pay for performance. So those are just a few examples. And again, this list is, of course, not limited. Then to wrap it up, start turning attrition into attraction. By understanding why they are leaving and by acting thoughtfully, you may just be able to turn a great attrition into the great attraction. And if you don't start using your employee data, these tools will just remain tools. And as my last words, you can start asking yourself a few questions. Are our benefits aligned with employee priorities? Employees want career paths and development opportunities. Can we provide it? And how are we building a sense of community? Thank you.
Thanks, Michel. Yeah, what if you look at what Michel has demoed today? It's what we discussed during the event. Having a tool in place really helps you to make well thought decisions. Yes, it is important that your culture is correct. Yes, it is important that you have your one-on-one meetings, personal meetings, discuss with your employees. How are you progressing? How are you doing? Do you feel really well? Those personal contact is really important. But imagine if you are a company with more than 500,000 people, it becomes less easy to keep all that data in your head. And even if you're about to leave the company as an HR manager, okay, where is the follow-up? The data is in somebody's mind, but not in the system. And that system, that solution, that's what Exceed can offer. And Exceed is a solution that basically helps you deliver a process from hire to retire. So Exceed can set up, or with Exceed we can set up a whole employee management system. We can set up a recruitment and onboarding system, and we can also set up a performance management system. And all those solutions that I'm just talking about, we have implemented them ourselves, and we are really happy with this way moving forward, so that we are really prepared for the future. And I think the afterburner for this is any company that has this situation, who is really dealing with the Great Resignation, needs to find its own way of working. And we, as Cloud Team Company, we decided to work with Exceed. We decided to work with the Growth Collective, with TMA, but also with Refugee Force, because we believe that those solutions will help us to get any further. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you have any things that you would like to share, please let us know. We're there. And yeah, Clarissa, are there any questions during the call?
No, I don't think so, actually. I think people might email you later, though.
All right. Then I want to thank you all for your attendance. And I want to thank all the different panelists who gave their insights on this story. It was very helpful, and I'm really happy that you wanted to join us. And I look very much forward to meet you also in person in the near future. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.